Formal charge. In this video, we'll quickly go over how to assign formal charges for all atoms within a molecule. We'll be doing this throughout the Lewis structure videos as well. To find formal charge, you'll look at an individual atom and you'll decide, using the periodic table, how many valence electrons that atom has. You then subtract off the number of electron pairs that that atom, you can think of it as, owns. The idea here is that we're seeing what is the electrical charge balance between the atom when it came in and the atom within the molecule. This makes a little bit more sense when we do some examples, so we'll work through that. But remember, your valence electrons are your electrons from the periodic table, and then you're going to subtract the number of electrons that the atom owns. You shouldn't really think of this as an equation so much as thinking of it as a concept. Let's do this for each atom in this molecule. Or actually, to be more precise, this ion. This is a hypochlorite ion. Let's first look at the oxygen. Go to your periodic table and find oxygen. See how many valence electrons it has. It has 6. We'll now subtract off the amount of electrons that it owns in this molecule. So it gets its own non-bonding pairs, and it gets 1 of the bonding electrons. So we minus 7, which gives us a -1 charge. Now for the chlorine, we go to the periodic table. We see that it's a halogen in the 7th group, and so it has 7 valence electrons. From there, we can see here it has 6 non-bonding pairs, and it gets 1 of the electrons from the bonding pair, leaving us with a formal charge of 0. So the oxygen is a -1, and the chlorine is a 0. Now notice, if you add these up, you get a -1 total charge. And that's because hypochlorite is a minus ion. And so your charges are always going to add up to equal your overall charge in the atom or the ion. Let's do one more. Here we have the ammonium ion. Notice it's a +1 charge, and so everything will have to add up to be +1. Let's start with our nitrogen. We use our periodic table to discover that nitrogen has 5 valence electrons, and from there we count how many it has in this atom. It has 4 bonds, and it gets 1 electron from each bond. Therefore, we minus 4, leaving us with an overall charge of 1. For each hydrogen, they're all the same, so I'm just going to do 1. They have a valence number of electrons of 1. And then for each one, it only has 1 bond and no lone pairs, and so we're going to subtract 1, giving us an overall charge of 0. Now that's true for all the hydrogens. Let's make sure our formal charges are correct. So we add up our +1 from our nitrogen, our +0 from each hydrogen, and overall we get a charge of +1, which matches what we have here. And so this should be okay. So to assign formal charges, you subtract the number of electrons that an atom owns within the molecule from its original valence electrons. To do this, you count up non-bonding pairs and half of the bonding pairs. Your formal charge is always going to add up to be the charge of the species. So if the species is neutral, it adds to be 0. If it's an ion, it adds to be the charge on the ion.